Hello, medical terminology students. This is chapter 1 in our medical terminology course. Um, this first chapter really kind of shows how medical terminology is built, the different word parts that you can identify the meanings of and put together to create create a long medical term and to identify the actual official definition of that medical term. So let's get started. Roots and combining forms. In your chapter, in chapter 1, this first chapter here, it again shows the different word parts. And there are 3 different word parts in medical terminology that are identified. So if you look in chapter 1 on page 2, and again, it's a digital book, you're going to see that the 3 different word parts are termed either a root word or a combining form, a prefix, or a suffix. And if you look on my screen here, it shows that root words and combining forms are identified in pink. And actually, in your digital textbook, they look a little bit purple, but that's okay. And then prefixes are identified as green, suffixes are identified as blue. So let's take a look at what a root word or combining form is. A root word, and trust me, it's confusing right now. It'll make sense as we go along. A root word is really the core meaning of the word. What are we really talking about in that medical term? A prefix, we kind of all learned this back when we were in elementary school. A prefix is part of a word that is at the beginning of the word that describes it. So prefix, thinks pre means before is an actual prefix. Suffix, again, those are part of the words that are at the end of the word that give different meaning to that word at the end. Let's continue on. Oops, hold on a second here. There we go. So let's talk about some root words. So if you look at the root word, the definition says it's constant, it's unchanging, the foundation, it provides its meaning. It really provides its meaning. Some examples are on the right. I'll get to that in a minute. They're usually of Greek or Latin origin. So medical terminology is an actual different language in itself. And then nearly all medical terms are going to have at least one root word or a combining form, and I'll share the difference with you in a minute. And the root words, they can appear anywhere in the term. They can appear at the beginning, and it wouldn't be considered a prefix. They can be at the end, and it wouldn't be considered a suffix. They would just still be a root word or combining form. Some examples that we have here on the right. Pneum and pneumon, that means lung. Pulmon means, hold on a second here, means, trying to get to my book here, breathing or lung. Heme means blood, and bronch means the bronchus. So here we're kind of all talking, most of it's talking about the lungs. Let's go to how we create an actual combining form. Many times in medical terminology, when we want to say something fluid, we have to add a vowel into the word or after the root word in order to make it sound fluid. That's where the combining vowel comes into place to make a root word into a combining form. Most of the time, it's going to be O that's going to be added, or it could be A, but it could be any vowel, A-E-I-O-U. But again, most of the time you're going to see O's and A's added in there, and it just makes it more fluid. That's all it does. So If you look back at the previous slide, you can see that pneum was one of the root words, bronch was another one, and heme was another one. When we add a vowel to that root word, it now changes it to a combining form. It does not change the meaning. All it does is it changes the spelling of the word, and it changes how you pronounce the word. That's all it does. It does not change the actual meaning of that root word. You can see at the bottom, pneumo, broncho, hemo, these are now considered combining forms because they actually have that vowel attached to it. All right, so let's take a look at the elements of the word gastroenterology. Gastroenterology, you can look, I have it broken down here. Gastro, the gaster, G-A-S-T-R, is the root word. But when you add the O into it, it becomes a combining form. And gastro means stomach. The next one is enter. Enter is a root word, but again, when we add O onto it, it means, or it goes entero, that's a combining form, and enter means the intestines. So the very last section of this term is logy, L-O-G-Y. That is a suffix that comes at the end. That means the study of. So when you put it all together, gastroenterology means the study of the stomach and the intestines. All right, let's continue on. So let's talk about gynecologist. For females, a lot of people, we have gynecologists, so we break it down. Gynec means woman with when you add, that's the root word. When you add the O into it, it doesn't change the meaning, it's just gyneco. And then logist means one who specializes in the study of women. So if we were to, let's look at how that O works in there. If we were to just look at gynec and logist without that middle O in there, it would sound kind of awful, actually. Gynecologist. So again, we add the O in there, so it sounds a little more fluid. Gynecologist. Let's take a look at the last one here, cardiology. You've got your cardio. Again, the cardi is the root word. When you add the O in there, it turns it into a combining form. It doesn't change the meaning. Cardi means heart and cardio means heart. And then logy, as we saw on the previous side, L-O-G-Y is a suffix. That means the study of. So cardiology means the study of the heart. All right, so now let's talk about suffixes. Like I stated, suffixes, they are at the end of the term, and they provide additional meaning to the actual root word, the base definition of that term. There's all different types of suffixes, and you can see in your book on pages 4 through 5, you can see all different tables in there that show you the multiple different suffixes. And again, you can see on my slide here, the suffixes are identified in your book as blue. So some examples on the bottom, take a look at hematoma. Hematoma means a mass of blood. Hemat means blood. Oma is a mass or tumor. The following one, hematologist, a root word, it's a combining form plus a suffix. Hemato means blood, and logist, as we saw on a previous slide, means one who specializes in the study of. So a hematologist is a specialist in the study of blood. But again, your root word is hemat or hemato. That's the base of the definition of that word. The suffix at the end just provides additional meaning to it. There are several different classifications of suffixes. Here are several of them. There's diagnostic, surgical, pathological, descriptive, or adjectival, and then nouns as well. I'm not asking you to tell me, where they fall in the category. My goal in this course is so that you identify what a suffix is and what the actual meaning of that suffix is, so you can put the word all together. But here are some examples of diagnostic suffixes. You can take a look at these and take a look at them in your book. Here's some examples of surgical suffixes. Again, take a look at them in your book. Find out what ectomy means. Find out what trypsy means. Here's pathological suffixes. Itis. Look in your book and figure out what itis means. Osis. Take a look in your book. Find out what osis means. And then adjective suffixes here. Ac. AC means pertaining to, ARY means pertaining to, IOR means pertaining to. I'm going to tell you that there are a lot of suffixes that mean pertaining to, and it's just a matter of memorization. So noun suffixes, here's some examples of noun suffixes you can see on your screen. Take a look in your book, determine what iatry, well, it says on your iatry, ishin, and ickle, what those different suffixes mean. Now let's go on to prefixes. Again, we've talked about root words and combining forms. That's the base definition of the term. The root word combining form can come anywhere in the term. Beginning, middle, and end. Suffixes are always going to come at the end. Prefixes are always going to come at the beginning. So you can see here that prefixes are identified as green. So the example we have is pericardium. Peri is the prefix. Cardium or cardi is the root word. Is actually a suffix. The next one, epicardium. Epi is going to be a prefix. What does peri mean? Peri means surrounding. So if you take a look in your textbook, you'll be able to see the definition of what peri means, that prefix. Epi means above. And I'm actually looking at these they're really small tables in your textbook on page 7 that will show you the definitions of these two prefixes. Let's take a look at the classification of prefixes. There are different classifications. Again, I don't need you to know which classification the prefix falls into. I just need you to identify the prefix and then know what its meaning is. So here we have several. Anti means against, epi means above, hypo means below, by, to, u means normal, micro means small, ab means away from, ad means toward, post means behind, and you'll see these definitions on pages 8 through 9 in the different tables in your books. So here's some examples of positional prefixes. We already talked about epi. Hypo is another one. Hypo means below. So again, a couple different prefixes. And then we've got number and measurement prefixes. Again, here's some examples of number and measurement prefixes. Directional prefixes. We've got anti as a prefix, sin is a prefix. And then again, let's take a look at hypogastric. In a previous slide, we identified hypo as a prefix. Gaster means stomach, that's the root word, and ick is going to be the suffix. So take a look at it. Hypo is a prefix, it means below. Gaster is the root word, that means stomach. Ick is the prefix, that means pertaining to. So this term means pertaining to below the stomach. Trust me, this is only chapter 1. it will eventually start making sense. I know that chapter 1 can be confusing because you're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what's a root word? What's a combining form? What's the difference? What's a prefix? How do I identify it in the word? What's a suffix? You'll get it. It's all memorization. The other thing in medical terminology, and you can see, like I said, we're starting on page 9, is that sometimes there are just medical terms that you just have to memorize what it is. They're unique. You can't break them down. They don't have a prefix. They don't have a suffix. They don't have a root word. So you just have to know what it means. So take a look in your book, like I said, on page 9. Sometimes you're just going to have to memorize what they are. So take a look here. We've got toxin. It means poison. Medical simply means to heal. Record means to remember. And on page 10, there are some other examples of some other unique terms. There are other unique terms that sound alike, but also are spelled differently, and then they have different meanings. So if you take a look again on page 10 in your textbook, this first ilium, they're both pronounced ilium. That means a bone or a pelvis. And then the second one, ilium, pronounced the same way, but spelled differently. That means it's a segment of the small intestine. Malleus and malleolus, real similar. They pronounced a little bit differently, but really similar. If you look at malleus, that's a small bone in the middle ear, but malleolus is actually the protuberance of your ankle. So now we're talking about opposite sides of the body. So again, sometimes you just have to know what it is, know what it means, and memorize it. The rest of the PowerPoint that we have here is literally just for review. Take a look at these. I've separated them out to show you what the prefix is in green, what the root word is in pink, and then what the suffix is in blue. So the idea of these review slides is for you to identify the prefix and what it means. Identify the root word or combining form and what it means. Identify the suffix and what it means, and put it all together. We already talked about hypogastric. We also, well, we kind of talked about cardiology, so let's take a look at the fourth one down, cardiac. Cardi is the root word. You can see that that's in pink. Ac is a suffix. So the suffix ac means pertaining to. Cardi means heart. So cardiac means pertaining to the heart. It's all memorization. So we have some more review here. You guys can look at these. So here we have pneum, thorax, respir, patent, dermat, lymph, mucus, toxin. These are all either root words or they are unique words. This here, they are not all lined up. The idea is to identify which definition on the right goes with the actual root word or unique form on the left. So, like for instance, pneum, that very top one, it actually means air or lung. So you're supposed to match them up. Respir means to breathe, which is the top one. So see if you can identify the meanings of the terms and match them up. Here's some other questions for you guys. Again, it's just for review. So question number 1, which one of these terms defines one who studies the skin? If you take a look in your book, you should be able to figure that out. Then the second question is, which definition is the study of the intestines and the stomach? We actually already did that one earlier, so you guys be able to get that one. A couple more. Which definition is related to the process of breathing? Second question, which definition is or defines the inflammation of the stomach? And I already shared with you the root word of what stomach is, so you probably should be able to get this one fairly easily. Um, Next questions, the terminology that defines inflammation of the joint. Inflammation of the joint. Second question, which definition defines the study of the urinary system? That's all I have for you. I'm going to do another video for chapter number 2. It will, trust me, it will make sense. It will just take time.